Welcome to Tent Talk, the podcast with Nancy McCready, where we talk about life under the big tent of God's presence and the provoking process of discipleship. Here we go.
Stay on the train, my friends. There's scenery ahead that you've not known anything about, but you can just stay with Him. Take a listen. I hope it encourages you to go deeper with Him and possibly to connect more with me. So what are you hungry for? Whatever it is that is going unmet in your life, whenever that deep awareness of a hunger that has not yet been fed, that awareness begins to increase in you, you are encouraged, this is what I'm encouraging you to do today, is to turn to the Father and ask Him to meet that need, to satisfy the true hunger. Oftentimes we think we're hungry for one thing, and we find out later we were really hungry for something else. We may have been hungry to be heard, to be listened to, but in essence, we were hungry to express. There was a deep need within us to express what was happening in us. So therefore, we wanted to be heard and to be listened to. So if we complain and say, well, nobody listens to me, I have no one to talk to, is the need to talk or the need to express? So sometimes let me see if I can say this. Sometimes when we don't yet know that there are things that exist that we have not yet experienced, we can almost mock and ridicule them. I've always told a little example is that if you're going to get on a train, say in Houston, Texas, and take a train all the way to New York City, but every time the train pulls into Nashville, Tennessee, because you don't like who's on the train, you have gotten bored on the train, you are impatient on the train, your seat is uncomfortable, whatever the case may be, the cycles and patterns of, our life is that when the train pulls into Nashville, Tennessee, you unbuckle your belt and you get off the train. And therefore, when you hear people talking about the scenery between Nashville and New York City, you're like, well, I didn't get to see that. I didn't know that existed. Or you start to mock it because it's not in your experience. Well, I don't really think that exists. I don't really think that can happen. That's ridiculous. Okay, so what can happen is that the hunger to experience the Lord in the fullness of who He is to you, and to live experientially in that, to live experientially in what actually happens inside of you when you are actually with Him. He actually feeds you what you're really hungry for, and you become a deeply satisfied son in your Father. So when you consistently relegate your life to what you can feel, what you can see, what you've already experienced, you are getting off in Nashville. And you don't even know that there is a vast life with Him beyond your irritation, your dullness, your inability to feel. Or it might be that while you're on the trip from Houston to Nashville, you decide, I really like Houston. I really like being settled and comfortable and having, just the temporary things of life. And you just want to go back to the life that you can make for yourself. That might be part of what gets you off the train in Nashville, is you real, I'm satisfied with what I have. So therefore, I don't really see the need to go any further. So part of what I'm attempting to encourage you to think about today is, do you really want to know Him? Do you really want to know the fullness of God? Are you willing to yield what you have known and where you are, even if it's been a gain to you? Are you willing to move away from that into the new depths of Him? Because what you're really hungry for is Him. What you're really longing for is Him. We think we need a person, a job, a ministry, a status. We think we need these other things, and we can even get upset with God that He is not providing those things. We thought He was going to give us the desires of our heart if we were faithful to Him, as though it were some kind of exchange, like, I'll work for you, but would you give me something, other than yourself? Would you give me the things that I really want? There is such a deepening of what God is doing inside of us, where He is taking us into depths of Himself that we have never known. So if you hear people talking about scenery between Nashville and New York City, and it stirs a jealousy in you, stay on the train. If you hear people talk about, a life of true satisfaction with Him, of truly being able to live in a way that you right now cannot understand, and you sense the provoking to mock and to ridicule that as though someone's just living too, spiritually minded, or, then don't do that. Don't mock things you don't know.
For more information on Nancy, please visit nancymccready.com or follow her on social media at NBMcCready.
So here's my very kind of, I don't want to say silly, but it might seem like a silly example, but my friends, stay on the train. When you start to pull into Nashville, no matter what condition you're in, no matter if you're deeply satisfied or horribly unsatisfied, tighten your belt, and when the door opens, do not jump off the train. Stay on the train, let the doors close, and let God take you places with Him you have never been. Your hunger is for Him. You were made for Him. Everything else is secondary, is general. The primary is Him. You were made for Him. He's drawing you to Himself, and nothing else will satisfy. God has come for you. He is the initiator in all things. Respond to Him. Do not get off the train. Let Him take you into a life where He meets your need. Literally, listen to me, literally meets your need. Need for comfort, need for success, need for perfection, need for value, need for love, need for attention, need for pity. The Word says He's had love, pity, and mercy upon you. The Word says He thinks about you more times in one day than there are sands on the seashore. I'm imploring you, stop your resistance to Him. Stop seeking it in other places. Stop with the bitterness, with being angry because of something you didn't get in the past. If you want it, go to Him, and He will transform you within. You do not have to live another day bitter. You do not have to live another day satisfied in earthly things, because you know it's going to pass. You can begin to respond to Him as He calls you, come deeper with me. We can sing 1,000,000 worship songs and love the song when it's playing, but when the song's finished, the lights shut down, they close the church doors, and you go home and you're in your private world, is He enough? Is He enough for you? My encouragement to you today is, oh, hungry one, get to Him. Not in a flurry of excitement or thinking somehow you've got to feel any particular way. In spirit, stay with Him. Stay with Him. He is about to feed His sons food they have never had before. But it requires a walking away from everything else we have known. And by walking away, now I'm talking first and foremost internally, that we turn, it's what Isaiah 55 in the Amplified Classic calls self-surrender that simply accepts the blessing. You see, you can't buy it from God with money, or any of these things. What it says is that if you're thirsty, if you're hungry, come to the water and drink. Buy it, you who have no money. So how do I buy this? Well, it's the self-surrender that simply accepts the blessing. I turn away. I decide that. You can decide that. I turn away from every opinion of man where I have made myself a slave to those things. Don't be upset with the man. You have to first address, why have I been making my slave to the opinion of man? Too many times we're offended at the man. Well, wait a minute. Who's been taking their life to the opinion of the man? See, God wants to begin with us because He knows our deepest freedom from ourselves, and to Him comes when we allow Him to address what's going on in us. And when you allow that, the self-surrender that simply accepts the blessing of Him and His presence, He is going to feed you things you have never been fed before. There is scenery between Nashville and New York City. New York City is God. Okay? I know it's a silly example, but just stay with me. My friends, we haven't seen anything yet of the glory of Him or of the trouble of this world. There is so much more to come on all fronts. But our number one way of having our hunger met is turn to Him and let Him be to you everything that He is. And it will set you free from self and set you free to Him. And He will become the focus and the center. I'm believing and laboring and praying for this for all of us, for His church. I'm going to stop there. Think about these things, my friends. Be provoked to stay on the train and go with Him. I love you all.
If you'd like information on how to book Nancy McCready for an event or speaking engagement, visit nancymccready.com.